At this point, theories became FNaF's second name, thanks to the internet's #1 teacher MathPad and his team. Although it's a territory that felt too alien to me a few years ago, today I decided to cast some light on my own theories I've made over the years. But just to make sure, I'm warning you, they might be extremely stretched or are ridiculous. Watch this on your own risk. Theory number 1. The Mimic exists in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. When I tried to replicate Scott's lightning style from his first 5 games, I visited the FNaF archive, a site with all his old teasers archived, made in celebration of 10th anniversary. I was looking at the images where Scott was giving hints towards the Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator by making really cool behind-the-scenes screenshots, one of them being a screenshot of the backstage, specifically when Bonnie covers almost entirely the camera view. The behind-the-scenes image reveals really interesting details, like another evidence that Bonnie doesn't really abide the rules. But also this. A head on the shelf. Nothing interesting, if it wasn't for the fact that it doesn't appear in the actual gameplay. Also, the head shape looks pretty off. The front view of wireframe on top right shows a structure that would suggest that it's a Sperchica mask, except right above the wireframe view, we have a slightly better look at it. And it's nothing like we see in the game. The head is an advanced looking exoskeleton head that, let's face it, looks drastically different than the exoskeleton sitting on the table a few meters away. Notice how the preview texture is meant to be metallic silver. The shape looked to me oddly familiar, but to make sure I wasn't going insane, I had to boot up Blender to be absolutely sure. Lo and behold, after a few seconds I managed to get this. While the size of it doesn't quite match, most details do look like the Mimic. Outside the lore, seems like a trash asset that Scott might have used as a reference while shaping heads. Inside the lore, however, this would mean that the Mimic was in the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 location. This, on the other hand, gave me an idea that looks a little like this. At the time when Five Nights at Freddy's events were happening, the Mimic was transported to the pizzeria. Let's not forget that the Five Nights at Freddy's animatronics were already in the manor in form of prototypes. In this case, this would mean 2 things. First of all, Manor was planned to go up in flames. Second, we weren't being manipulated by the Mimic this whole time. But then, who is the person pulling the strings? It's William Afton. Franchise's Man in Purple is the big bad yet again. But how is he doing it when he's not even in the game? Well, he's the voice behind Dispatch. After all, the whole goal of Secret of the Mimic is to get the Mimic's schematics. The big bad AW, and at the time Hen, hatched an intrigue to steal what Edwin made. For that, William started contacting the Costume Manor employees, or who knows, maybe even made a few deals here and there. This also means that the FNaF 1 location already exists somewhere further away from the Costume Manor. The prototypes in Secret of the Mimic were possible outlines for Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, and once they had the concepts, they skedaddled away. But what do they need Mimic for then? It could serve as a structure for possible future projects, a life buoy they could use in case something would go wrong, or maybe just simply body parts. Theory number 2. Big Top wasn't Edwin's creation. I'll keep this one short, as I pretty much lack a lot of evidence. Tom and Matt from Game Theory established that each animatronic design can be divided into William's creations, where jaws are connected to the robot's head and move by swinging up and down, and Henry's creations, where the jaw is separated from the head and moves up and down on hinges. And would you know it, Big Top's jaw is separated from head and moves on hinges. Also, by putting Big Top's model right next to Staffbot and Mailbot, you'll see that all 3 have one thing in common: the hand structure. Each of these 3 has relatively simple hand designs, 3 fingers segmented into 2. This would mean that DJ Music Man is Big Top, with few changes in his design, such as non-existent moving jaw, or more mobility added by turning him into an arachnophobic nightmare. Oh wait, you thought there's more. Well, not really. Theory number 3. Five Nights at Freddy's 4, Sister Location and Help Wanted Soul Share Theory. This one goes a little bit off the rails in some moments, but I'll try with this one. This one circled around in my head, but more like a fun fact rather than a full-on theory. Up until 2023, when I blessed my channel with now taken down video, with the most weird title, The Social Theory. Those were the times before I picked up a microphone, used a text-to-speech site, didn't write any scripts for videos, and used Clideo to edit them. This theory was made when DLC for Security Breach was being teased. I won't bring up the entire theory on table with our details, so I'll bring up some things that were mentioned there. I pointed out a weird anomaly in Help Wanted where Nightmare Bunny's model looks just a wee bit different than his original model from the 4th game. Apart from low polygons, I specifically outlined his eye color, which in VR looks like the eye that the other Nightmares share, even though his original version has purple eyes. Another, this time slightly more strange, are his whiskers, or rather lack of these. I found it pretty weird as in Help Wanted these features are present in Glitch Trap. However, this is the point where my old theory was going bonkers, so I'll leave the bigger section of it away. In short, this theory was exploring how Glitch Trap might be working in this universe. In form of a glitch, he's able to share a body with certain animatronics. The whiskers and purple eyes are a side effect that might appear during this moment. Nightmare Bunny's appearance was originally his VR one, meaning that Five Nights at Freddy's 4 happened somewhere after Help Wanted. My original theory from 2023 has a sudden big jump between the timelines, so don't ask me why it happened. In the first part of this theory, yes, this theory had 2 parts. The previous thing I talked about was the second part. I mentioned how FNaF World sister location correlate. This is already a pretty obvious thing for the theory community. I pointed out in this video how Nightmare animatronics and Phantom animatronics reminded me of the Twisted animatronics from the books. In there we were introduced for the first time to a device known as an illusion disc. In the Twisted Ones novel, these devices were used to distort the appearance of animatronics, and in the 4th closet, an illusion disc was used by Baby when disguising as Charlie. Its sister location were instructed by hand unit to remove a power module from Phantom Freddy's chest cavity. A Reddit user, Zain Ahmed 002, posted this on r/FNaF theories. By the way, I'm really sorry for the bad resolution, but Reddit doesn't like to load pictures from me. The power module, as a matter of fact, seems to be incorrectly considered to be an illusion disc, despite it being called a power module by unit. But what if it's half true? One of the most important things about all Phantom animatronics is that they are huge, with Baby alone being estimated to be 7 feet tall. The Phantoms on the other hand measure from 5 to 6 feet tall, which is it enough for some women. The size of the power module seems to be almost perfect for an illusion disc, except these were already described in the novels as, quote, flat discs about the size of $half coin. The power module seems to be nearly the size. Sorry for not using any math, but I'd rather leave this to people who actually know something in this matter. But I would argue that the module seems to appear as slightly bigger, which led me to believe that illusion discs were designed to cooperate when installed somewhere. In this case, an illusion disc inside a power module. This, on the other hand, led me to Five Nights at Freddy's 4 and the Nightmare animatronics, where Phantoms are nightmares but with illusion discs. This theory also had a small correlation to Five Nights at Freddy's 4 and sister location, which has, yet again, Nightmare Bunny. In this old theory, I've noticed how the design of his torso reminded me of what Scooper does in the scooping room, a huge gap that looks way too suspicious to be ignored. This was the moment in the old video where I said that the Nightmare animatronics were the crying child's illusion, I'll call him Norman, but were real.
Go Charlie, it's your birthday.
I've also made a loose connection to both games by pointing out that Five Nights at Freddy's 4 and sister location have extras menu that shows things like making off, or a list of animatronics. I made a point that in extras menu of Five Nights at Freddy's 4 there are only 4 making off shown, of Foxy and Fredbear. Meanwhile in sister location we have Freddy, Foxy and Baby. It could be a loose correlation to each animatronic, Baby being a machine that killed Elizabeth, and Freddy and Foxy being the disguises for Fredbear and Foxy we see in sister location. But then, what does it make it Freddy and Freddles? Ballora and Minirina's? Shut the fuck up! Theory number 4, the plush trap theory. I'll give you a quick heads up, this theory was made after watching one of older videos from MatPat where he was talking about jeans. The day is 1st of 2020. Scott and his Fazbear Frights team surprised FNaF fans yet again with another book to their collection, The Bunny Cowl, a book that seemed to be perfectly normal for the FNaF universe standards. Until the last story. In the Flesh, a story that started the unholy meme of pregnant MatPat, because of the protagonist's name being Matt. In short, the story is about a game programmer that progressed Springtrap in the game out of frustration, and the rabbit is so angry that makes Matt pregnant.
You ruined me.
Male pregnancy FNaF universe. And Edwin, who made Mimic that had the voice of Fiona, and nothing will surprise me.
Edwin banged the Mimic!
After reading this chapter of Fazbear Frights, I was speechless, and not for the reasons I might have said earlier. Before the Great Lockdown and before Fazbear Frights were even announced, I had a really messed up theory. It sounds a little something like this. Nightmare Bunny and Springtrap are Prostrap's parents. Now, I wasn't focusing on this theory so much, because the more I thought about it, the more insane I thought I was going. I've seen MadPat's video on how genes work in real life. I've estimated that something like this might be possible here, at least to some degree. By putting all three in one scene, we can see that there is something family-like going on. By looking at Plushtrap, we can see that he inherited things after Springtrap, like the suit color or the name Trap in the end. And just like with Bunny, we can see things like ears segmented into three or sharp teeth. Hey, I'm Dawn! What can I say? I really wanted to see what it's like to be a theorist. And well, I'm still on the opinion that I'm not welcome in this territory. I made this video mostly to share an older piece of me that was buried under unused files that I forgot to delete. Think of it as an older Since the video ended, I have nothing left but to say I'll see you all again someday. Just not enough not theory video. Let's leave it to professionals.
Stop. You're not him.
In the meantime, however, let me tell you about something else. First of all, I have Twitter, where I suddenly became active. I sometimes post artworks as well.